Welcome back, everybody, to Battle of the Best, brought to you by Catz and Leaseweb. Our first match, thank you for bearing with us. Our first match is Numberguy versus HitGirl. And like we said, the hunters have been taken away from both sides, and we're going to start off very soon. And going back to what we were first bringing up, Admirable, you were saying that you feel like Rogue is a strong pick to start the series off for Numberguy, but then knowing this for HitGirl, and assuming he's bringing like a zoo deck or something that's not like Handlock, which is favored against Rogue here, because I know some people were even experimenting with different versions of the Warlock. What do you feel like is the best response here from HitGirl? As the least intrusive? You feeling the Shaman is the best bet here?
No, honestly, I'd still like to see Warlock from him, even if it's a zoo deck, because I think it's going to perform well versus his lineup. If your opponent happens to lead with Rogue, and if they don't lead with Rogue, it feels like a dead deck. It's not very good versus the other two, I don't think. I think Shaman has the tools to pick it apart. So in that situation, I think you try to go with your free win if you're playing zoo decks. But Shaman, on the other hand, it's good versus two of their opponent's classes. So both of these guys, I think, are kind of playing the odds here, where they're like, well, my opponent has two leads that are favorable for me, and the other one's not so bad because it's a mirror match. So it depends on how their builds work out. So no surprise to see Shaman from both these players. Honestly, none of these classes would surprise me because all of them make sense in a certain kind of light. But Shaman versus Shaman is probably it kind of shows you that both these players are a little unfamiliar with each other because they're just playing whatever the odds are. So no, it's just this lightning bolt keep would be really strange for me. But I guess if he keeps this, he wants to fight off something like a Flame Tongue Totem or a Manatide Totem potentially early off.
Right, early on in Shaman vs. Shaman, it's all about the board, right? I mean, you're the one who's well known for being so board centric. You're even willing to hex a Harvest Golem that's been damaged a little bit. So to seize back tempo and seize back the board, that Lightning Bolt can be really powerful. Now, some people have been replacing Lightning Bolt with, actually, I was about to bring that up. Lava Burst is another card that's been introduced back in. They feel like it's slightly redundant to have Lightning Bolt and Lava Burst. Do you have any opinions on this subject matter of deck building?
I think Lightning Bolt's a totally fine card to have. Obviously, it performs well in the mirror, and Lava Burst is aimed a little bit more at control decks, of course. Not only does it give you a little extra reach, but it gives you some extra removal spells. Right off the bat, of course, we see a Manatide Totem coming in a Numberguy's hand. But two Rockbiters and two Nerubian Eggs for HitGirl. This game is going to take very, very different approaches from both of these players here. We're going to see HitGirl likely fighting to be a little bit more aggressive and actually try to end the game. And Numberguy, of course, he wants to extend this probably about as long as he can, given that he has Doomhammer and Manatide and Lava Burst in his hand. He doesn't have a lot of early tools to fight for the board quite as aggressively as HitGirl does.
So with Lava Burst and we see an early Doomhammer, you feel like it's high likelihood that we're seeing double Doomhammer Shaman from Numberguy at least?
Not necessarily double Doomhammer. I know it's been common. It wouldn't surprise me to see it at this point. He wants to get a lot of mileage out of those Doomhammers and look to finish the game against control decks anyway with Lava Burst. And in the meantime, he feels like he has enough to fight for the board to keep a lot of pressure out of his hair. And this is, of course, the Shaman versus Shaman matchup is that both of these players will use a lot of Totem hero powers to make sure they get to this point. And Manatide Totem, I think, already doing a pretty good job here. It's pulling a Rockbiter out of his opponent's hand. What do you think about Lightning Bolting there instead of using Rockbiter?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because Lightning Bolt with the Spell Power Totem is slightly more flexible, but at the same time, if you were choosing the Overload, next turn is the one you want to use it. Say you have to use Lightning Bolt on your next turn, on turn 5, then you can't play Fire Elemental the following turn. So there are pros and cons of both. I do like keeping Lightning Bolt, though, for that extra bit of reach damage, especially if there's a turn with Azure Drake coming out from your opponent, possibly.
Really early Doomhammer here from Numberguy. This, I think, is a little bit more indicative of the fact that he could be running double Doomhammer. And then a little bit more to that is he actually attacked his opponent's face instead of just keeping it back to continue to hammer away at minions to try to generate his advantage. So he's looking to press for damage. So to me, it's even more telltale of the fact that he's likely got something like double Doomhammer. And with the Nerubian Egg down, even though he's Feral Spiriting, this isn't like the best spot to Lightning Storm ever, of course, because you're just Lightning Storm's going 1-for-1 with Feral Wolves. Feral Spirit. That's if you roll high on both of them. Now, he does have a Doomhammer and he does have a Haunted Creeper, so he doesn't have to worry as much about it. But this definitely a major concern already for Numberguy. This is going to apply a lot of pressure to him, especially with that Nerubian Egg out.
Yeah, because even if the Lightning Storm rolls high, you have to deal with the fact that there's a Nerubian staring back at you, and you might be
Yep.
taking 8 points of damage if you want to take care of it. At the same time, the alternatives don't seem to be that strong. If you play a couple of removal spells, it's the same thing as Lightning Storm. If you use Lightning Bolt and Flame Tongue Totem, you're still opening yourself up to get picked apart by whatever your opponent's be able to respond to. That's the power of Feral Spirits in this matchup.
Yep. So Flame Tongue Totem here I think is totally fine. I actually like that he's chosen to do it this way. That Spell Power Totem's certainly going to be biting the dust. I'd be really surprised if this went for face. You know, this is one of the matchups where you don't want to...
I mean, he does have Rock Biter, Lava Burst, and Lightning Bolt. Something to consider about how much burst damage he has.
Lightning Storm picked up. I think it's going to be pretty... I think Lightning Storm is still one of the most important cards in this matchup, even though there's been a lot more, Death Rattle minions added to this deck. Like, since Haunted Creeper and Nerubian got added, Lightning Storm, it goes down in value a little bit, but I still would consider it probably one of the most important cards.
Is it the most important card to play right now? Because, again, he can't play Fire Elemental next turn, and he's stuck being passive and reactive.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if he actually Lightning Storm right now. Like, I would be... Like, Lightning Bolt makes a lot of sense because you're going into 6 mana next turn. And then, your turn's not strong. It's either Nerubian Egg or Totem after that. But, I mean, do you really want a Lightning Storm here? Clearing out 2 spiders with it? So he's already gotten value from his Haunted Creeper. And, like, this would be enormous value to get if he Lightning Storm. Wow, he's going to go for it, though. And, rolls low. That could bite him a little bit. So that Flame Tongue Totem's still a little bit of a presence, and he can't Fire Elemental next turn. I don't know if I agree with that, man.
So we traded Lightning Storm for the second half of the Haunted Creeper and a little damage on the Flame Tongue Totem. It doesn't feel like high value at all, but at the same time, he still has ways to deal with the stuff on the board, too. It's not like he gave up all his removal. Also, there's a rule of thumb that says the person who Lightning Storms first in the Shaman matchup often is at a disadvantage, just because for the rest of the matchup, your opponent will be having the final say of what you can do. So, HitGirl doesn't seem to be in a very strong position right now, especially since his Doomhammer's been controlling the board so well.
Yeah, I agree with you, too. Like, look at this position now. His opponent obviously feels a lot more comfortable extending into the board once Lightning Storm's already been used. But to that same effect, your opponent doesn't really have to do anything if you just let him sit there with minions on the board. So I think it's a fine play if you have a lot of follow up to it. But this hand doesn't have a lot of follow up. Like, even Hex here isn't a very good option.
Are we pushing out the egg here?
It's tough to say. I mean, this is one of the reasons I didn't like Lightning Storming last turn, is because now you're stuck with the Fire Elemental in your hand. Like, this isn't coming out till turn 8. And then he's also drawn Alakir, so now he has the option of either Fire Elemental or Alakir, which is good if the game goes that long. But this is a lot. Again, this is a lot of pressure that's been built up. This Flame Tongue Totem being a pretty big nuisance. If you're going to Lightning Bolt, I feel like you should just Lightning Bolted the. If you're going to overload yourself, I feel like you should just Lightning Bolted the Totem and then had Fire Elemental the next turn. So a little bit of mismanaged overload here, I think.
Ooh. If he passes too, that's game. Look how much damage is in Numberguy's hand. He's got 10 damage from Rockbiter and 8 from the spells, and that's only 7 mana. If
it's actually just, I think it's game no matter what. I think it's just game no matter what, actually. So he's going to take 4.
Oh, that's right. He didn't take care of this Flame Tongue Totem.
I haven't counted it perfectly, but this is, like I said, 10 damage. Plus 5 more, plus 3 more, so that's 18. Yeah, that's going to be enough for lethal. Wow, look at that, turn 7.
Oh my goodness.
It's Doomhammer pressure. This is one of the powers of Lava Burst, too, is it can give you a pretty massive reach if you manage to get an Unbound Elemental on the board. 6 points of damage just from that alone. And that's going to be game 1 over to Numberguy very quick. And this is sort of the important... This is the turn that Shaman's been making, and it's kind of what made it so scary, is before it was this long-term control deck that relied on having some of the most powerful spells in the game early to scale into your mid game, which again you had powerful spells, and then to scale into your late game, where cards like Fire Elemental, I mean, they made your late game start on turn 6, where other people's late games starting well beyond that. Right. Sometimes 2 and 3 turns later than that, and it's just massive reach here, of course, and that unchecked Flame Tongue Totem. That Lightning Storm may have been a little bit early. Gosh, I mean, but this is just one of those things, it's different opinions. I'd love to hear what he had to think about it, because he obviously put some thought into it, and it's not like he just Lightning Storms without a plan. I don't think people at this level are really doing that. I guess, it's a desperation feel. So
it's not even as if the Flame Tongue Totem, like some people might look at the results and think that the outcome would have been different if he just rolled high. It's like, well, you're saying that, Admirable, but if you rolled high on the Flame Tongue Totem, maybe it would have been different. That's not the case. The Unbound Elemental was also the overkill damage that he didn't need that +2 from the Flame Tongue. The damage there was inconsequential, to say the least. It was the idea that the board was still existing and the burst from the Doomhammer as well as the spells were able to finish it. So completely agree with what you say. Just backing you up. I got your back, Admirable. That way we can fend off Twitch chat together. Stay back, you fiends.
Thanks, bro.
There we go. So where does HitGirl go from here? Has Warlock remaining. Some people are saying that Shaman, the new builds of Shaman, feel strong against even Zoo because, like you said, those Death Rattle minions in the beginning, Haunted Creeper, give you a lot of stability in the early game. Your totems aren't as vulnerable anymore, and you always have targets for Defender of Argus and Flame Tongue Totem if the Haunted Creeper dies. So I feel like Shaman has stabilized a lot earlier. How do you feel about that matchup nowadays if HitGirl is running Zoo?
So I sort of agree with you, but I'm still in the camp of Lightning Storm is makes all the difference in the world. Without a Lightning Storm, I think that matchup is definitely favorable for Zoo. But Shaman can pick you apart. You know, something we didn't see in either of these players' hand. Not to say that they don't have them, but we didn't see an Earthshock. And both these players mulligan quite a few cards. And I know a couple people have been trimming Earthshocks from their deck to help fight off against these sort of mid-range decks because Earthshock, frankly, is not very good against mid-range. It's good versus like Twilight Drake, and obviously it's good versus stuff like Sylvanas and Cairn, but even then it's just a silence effect. So with all the damage they've been adding, it's a very different game plan. You know, you want to actually kill your opponent in the mid-game instead of just trying to Earthshock and then fend it off. So, you know, if he's got something like Handlock, he's seen Lava Burst at this point, so he's really reluctant, I think, to put Handlock into that because Lava Burst gives them extra removal spells in your Giants. Warrior seems like a really good choice to me, but wow, look at this Spectral Knight in his hand too. This is something I've seen a couple times, but haven't seen too much, and I'm curious to know how that works. Well, he's actually got 2 Spectral Knights too. We saw him mulligan one away, so that's a second copy that he drew.
I mean, it's intelligent, right? How many people are running Black Knight or some form of ways to deal with Sludge Belcher effectively because of how prominent it's been in deck building? You flip it around, you have a card that's also durable and sticky in its own way, and a nightmare to deal with in popular decks. Like if people are starting to get inspiration from Savit's Miracle Rogue, you have Spectral Knight, which can give it a hard time.
Yeah, I think I sort of agree with you on that line too. Against Shaman particularly, it's very good. Because it's not going to get lightning bolted. It's not going to get lava bursted. It's not going to be hexed. And that's something that's really common to see from Shaman is they have a small board presence going in to your turn 5. And they can hex your 5-drop, which is very often Sludge Belcher, and really push for the win from there. But, you know, Sludge Belcher is one of those tools that's aimed at aggressive decks. So when he's playing something like Spectral Knight, obviously his intent is to ban aggressive decks and rely on Spectral Knight's just, you know, pure statistical ability to really get work done. And I think in this matchup, it's going to shine.
Yeah, Spectral Knight was one of the cards where I saw from Next Remnant, and I just, how is this fair? But of course, when the meta sped up, it pushed Spectral Knight just because it was too clogged to 5 mana. It was the exact opposite of pre-Next Remnant, where there was not enough 5-drop to play. Now we have too many. So I always felt bad for the guy, but I said, you know what? He's going to fit in somewhere in the meta game. And I want to see it perform well. But in the meantime, we'll see Shaman have a pretty decent curve. Look at what's going on here. There's lots of options for Numberguy. He can choose how he wants to get rid of this Armor Smith, or he can choose to develop the Underbalanced Elemental. Instead, he chooses to deal with the Armor Smith immediately and deny the board for the Warrior. I can definitely understand because it's not just the Armor Smith gaining armor. It's the fact that Cruel Taskmaster come down. You can't safely hero power. From that point on, anything the Warrior does threatens your board.
Yeah, this is a really good coin. Deathspite here too. He gets the Flame Tongue Totem out of the way. His Armor Smith went 1 for 1, so that's a pretty good deal. And now he's picked up an extra card from this Deathspite. So this is going to threaten his opponent's next minion too. So I think this is a really good line of play here from Numberguy. He rolls Healing Totem, which is fantastic for him. That's probably going to save his Spell Power Totem now. And of course, that Haunted Creeper, since it came into play second, its Death Rattle is going to happen after the Deathspite Death Rattle happens. So it will not kill the tokens in this scenario should that Haunted Creeper get attacked with the Deathspite. So he's got to find another way to clear that if he wants to get it out of the way. And you can see from his hand, man, not a lot of action going on. This is almost certainly shield block. He's drawn a 9 and an 8, and he already had a 5 and a 6 in his hand. And this is sort of this is one of those warrior positions where it can get out of hand really quickly. Is when you talked about clogging up your hand. Well, this is pretty much the way to do it, is to draw 17 mana worth of spells on turn 4. He's effectively fighting with 2 less cards right now, where everything is available to Numberguy.
Yeah, and he's got some of the best cards too, to be able to put on pressure onto the board while being able to draw cards. But again, that second charge of Death Spite being very annoying to prohibit Shaman from feeling comfortable with dropping anything down. He was hoping that the Searing Totem was the Taunt Totem, right? The Stone Claw Totem. I've been corrected a lot when I was in recent months of like, oh, you have to call totems by their proper names. You know, they have feelings too. Okay, dude. Sorry, man.
Taunt Totem it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spell Power Totem. Healing I get Healing Totem right a lot. 1/1 Totem, I missed that one. Pretty much every single. That's a 1/1
Searing Totem.
Yeah, Searing Totem. It's searing with yeah, so No Wish Adventure's coming down for Numberguy here. And he's going to roll his
with cleverness
totem.
and eloquence.
So he's guaranteed the Taunt Totem here. I'm sorry, Stoneclaw Totem. Totems have feelings too. I'm actually really surprised that Unbound Elemental didn't come down last turn to force an attack from that Death Spite, because Unbound Elemental was a huge problem if it goes unchecked there. And he's got a second one in his hand, so he's obviously got longevity in mind. He wants to force his opponent to use this Death Spite on even worse minions. And frankly, I guess it's just at his liberty, since his opponent's turn 4 was just armor and pass. And the Spectral Knight, of course, I think it's surprising him a little bit. And look at this Death Spite, man. It's got to take out this 2/4 if he wants to use it right now. I think I'd like to see him save it. I'd like to see Sylvanas come down this turn and just wait on the Death Spite. Like it's just not doing anything here. Like is the extra 3 points of damage really going to matter that much? I think you can afford to wait. And that's exactly what he's going to do. I agree with that.
You can afford to wait, and also there's just more bodies, so that way Sylvanas has a higher impact. Especially also you can evaluate, because the 5/5 body is the strongest attack on the board. So I like your assessment a lot, and I think this definitely presents a problem, but that's until he drew Earthshock. Earthshock on the Sylvanas, short of Hex, is the best response that you can have to shut her down.
Yep. Unbound Elemental. See, this is the other thing too, is like, if your opponent wasn't going to attack with their Death Spite into your 2/4, like why wouldn't you play the Unbound Elemental? Really strong turn though, like you said, Earthshock. I mean, that was pretty much the magic draw.
Yep.
Making sure you can shut that off. Lightning Storm also getting value against Warrior, something you don't see very often.
Not to mention his mana next turn will also be available for Fire Elemental. Ooh, he picked up the Baron Geddon though. That is a big MVP card against Shaman.
Huge draw right now, I'd say. I'd be very
I don't see anything else to do here.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised this Baron Geddon did not get played this turn. He's also got Brawl to back this up too, so this game actually, he might take control of this despite drawing the 18 and 19 mana spells on turn 4 for him not be able to play. Yes, I know they're not 18 and 19 mana, guys. Fire Elemental though, really good response, and he picked up a Hex too. I don't know. I'm feeling the YOLO Rag. What do you think?
Execute also feels like it's okay because you just picked up Spectral Knight. If he didn't have anything else, say that was a Shield Slam, I would get behind that. I would say Ragnaros is okay, but this is so much safer. Ragnaros could backfire like crazy if it missed.
Yep. I think I'm okay with the backfiring. I mean, I guess he wants to establish a board presence first, so he can make sure that Ragnaros is a little bit protected. But Ragnaros, in my opinion, doesn't hold a lot of value in this matchup. You know, it's going to hit totems a lot. It draws a Hex, which is a pretty good, I think, use of Ragnaros, is trying to pick off a minion and then get value from it. I think this is just as good of a Ragnaros turn, but it's also a very good Alexstrasza turn. You know, he's got a bunch of things he's got to think about this turn. Does he want to push for lethal, or does he want to continue to try to develop an advantage?
With no Grommash in hand, at the same time, though, it is the most imposing creature on the board.
Yep.
You bait out the Hex, and then Ragnaros can come down safely, or safer.
Yep.
And then you already have the board initiative, so you can clear totems and increase the chances of Ragnaros, because this Spectral Knight's not going anywhere anytime soon, as long as you control state of the board. Flame Tongue Totem, Defender of Arcs is much weaker.
I like it. This is the play I wanted to make, was slam this Ragnaros, hope he gets the work done. It hits that Loatheb. That's really important right now. Numberguy's got a Hex in his hand, but he's still staring down 6 points of damage. Doomhammer, not a good pickup. And suddenly this board not looking so good, despite a really good start here from Numberguy. HitGirl showing a lot of patience holding that Despite for a turn and he got the value out of it that he wanted exactly, which was picking off an Unbound Elemental. Not only that, but he picked off a 3/5 Unbound Elemental with it. So even in a better case scenario, he's got ways to get out of this board position, but none of them are the best right now. Doomhammer is going to be his choice, though.
I mean, he's got to start answering what's on the board here. Shaman needs to leverage the board.
Yep.
But this is where the Warrior can completely dominate from this point on, especially since whatever he draws, he picks up that Grommash, he'll get that win condition set. And
wow,
he chooses
not to use Alex Straza this turn, even after he picks up the Fiery War Axe and he's seen a Hex from his opponent. I am almost stunned by that. Which means he's going to use Fiery War Axe this turn.
He just saw Hex too.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this turn was played too quickly. I think he saw that Acolyte of Pain and was like, I can get the cards I need. But imagine Alex Straza right here. His opponent would be at 11 hit points, and he'd be staring at an 8/8, a 4/6 that he can't target, and then he's got 6 points of damage with Fire War Axe in his hand. So he's only got to get through 5 points of damage. And if that Doomhammer is going to kill anything, he's going to take damage from that. So how does he deal with the Spectral Knight afterwards? He knows that Hex has got to come out of his opponent's hand. If he wants to deal with that. Even if he's just going to taunt up, it's like not really a good scenario for him, but instead he chooses to go for this extended play. And he may pay for
rolls
it.
high. He's able to clear, but he doesn't. He rolls the opposite direction. So now he has to use the Searing Totem, which is just a little bit more painful because that's another target that you can't Flame Tongue or Defender.
Yeah, and look at this now. So Alex Straza, still a very good play, but it's gotten actually reverse value now. Before, you could have had this deal 13 points of damage, and instead it's dealing -1.
Yeah, you're healing your opponent for 1.
Yeah. Definitely still wouldn't use it on myself, though. I think healing my opponent for 1 is definitely better than dealing myself 7.
No, Alex Strazing yourself when you're above 15 is like the equivalent of just bringing in the knife a little bit deeper so that you can get closer to your opponent.
I've done it at 30 when my opponent's at 13. I didn't win that game. But yeah, I mean, he's still got Alex Straza on the board, so this is still a looming threat. And Numberguy's got to find a way to deal with this. The overload impacting his turn a little bit here. I'd be very surprised if Man-Tide Totem was not involved in this series of plays.
Put him in, coach. I feel like that's the best. You have to stop from the possibility of just dying.
Yeah, you don't want to take 8 damage here. But he is 1 damage off lethal right now, we can see. With that Spellbreak in his hand. No Cruel Taskmaster. Cruel Taskmaster or Deathbite would have ended that game.
Man, he's 1 point off of killing his opponent right now.
I still think you go for the same sequence of plays, though. I think you silence it, drop the Loatheb, and charge forward.
Sure. He already used 2 Lightning Storms, by the way, so it's not like your board can get completely disrupted anyways, even if you didn't drop Loatheb.
I like using the Fiery War Axe on the minion here instead of the face, too. I don't think that 3 points of damage on his face matters too much. As much as I would like to deal my opponent 75% of their remaining health, I think killing that 2/3 to help prevent against any Flame Tongue Totem shenanigans is a good idea at this point.
Which is precisely what's in the hand of Numberguy, and it looks like HitGirl should be able to close this one out unless there's some way Numberguy can pull himself out of a situation right here. But even so, you're always on the clock of potentially dying off of your opponent having a second death spite to the face.
He's gonna concede this one. Wowee. And it just goes to show you like how crazy Warrior can get when it extends into this late game. Despite drawing 17 mana worth of spells on turn 4 off of his 2 draws, and he's operating on 2 less cards. And I would even consider that like a small mistake to not play the Alex Straza first. I mean, you just seen a Hex. Alex Straza was going to deal a ton of damage in that game. He chose to wait for it anyway. But it's just the power of his cards ended up winning that game. This is what Warrior does. It waits till it gets to its pay-to-win point, and then your opponent pays the price instead of you. You get to sit back, relax, laugh, crack open a drink. If only you had legendaries, idiot. But
I saw a comment the other day where they're like, "Man, Hearthstone's not pay to win, it's play to win." And he's like complaining about it. He's like, "Yeah, you have to play so many games. You have to like win at this game. What kind of other game isn't play to win? Like you're trying to win, aren't you? You have to do something." I don't know. It was a very weird argument that made no sense whatsoever. But it just popped into my mind as soon as you said beta win. And Warrior can feel that way, especially considering how dust heavy it is. It's upwards into 12, 13,000 sometimes, which can be a little intensive. But Numberguy, he's got the series lead, which often people say in last hero standing is the most important game to win because then you have the advantage for the rest of the way. He has the Rogue and he also has his Warlock, which two classes can be pretty strong against the Warrior, especially since I know Numberguy loves Handlock. The guy, he's enamored by the deck and the archetype. He feels like it's one of his strongest classes. At the same time, people don't really attribute Handlock to Numberguy, so it could be a good surprise if people aren't expecting it.
You know, something else to mention on that is in a ban format, you can really tool your Handlock deck to beat these control matchups. And when you're playing Handlock versus Warrior, let's say if you have access to stuff like Sylvanas, Ragnaros, and Alexstrasza, you can put a big amount of pressure on their ability to actually just kill everything, because that's one of Warrior's plans when it's playing against Handlock, is once you've dealt with the 4 giants, you're pretty much in the clear. And Moltons don't come down very often at all, so you're kind of looking at, you have to fend off 2 Twilight Drakes and then fend off 2 Mountain Giants, and if you manage to do that, 2 Moltons are all you're facing down, so you're looking to just kill your opponent with one big lethal swing. So with that Hunter ban available, he doesn't have to worry about, you know, pulling that extra percentage against a deck like that, so he doesn't have to necessarily play like 2 copies of Hellfire and 2 copies of Mortal Coil. He can actually just kind of, you know, rotate those cards out of his deck and it become extra greedy, and then when you're drawing 2 cards a turn to your opponent's you know, drawing 1 card a turn, the armor up can make a difference, but it usually doesn't make the difference between the extra 4 or 5 cards you pick up over the course of those first 10 turns. And when he queues up Warlock here, I mean, I would be surprised if it's not Handlock. It definitely is. And let's see how crazy this is, because my impression is that this is going to be a very greedy Handlock deck.
Yeah, we'll see if he's running 2 Siphon Souls and Jiraxis and some other tech cards that might be included, like lots of AoE to deal with shamans that he's expecting, like double Hellfire might be making a comeback, especially if you're banning Hunter. You don't have to worry about losing health as long as it's about board control. Numberguy is even thinking about keeping Faceless Manipulator in his opening hand to follow up a Mountain Giant play against Warrior, and that's one way to seal the deal. If they can't deal with 1 giant and you just press the advantage of large minions, Warrior cannot climb back. So that's an interesting keep, and if it pays off for him, especially if HitGirl doesn't choose to use Execute immediately, then, well, could be lights out very quick for him.
Yep. I like his mulligan here too, by the way. He is very aware that this is Handlock. Just given the nature of how these ban tournaments work, again, Handlock's just that much more powerful. So keeping the Execute in a way to activate it, it's super important. Again, that Mountain Giant's one of the most terrifying plays that can happen. And mulliganing the Shield Slam, it's one of the best ones you can mulligan into. And there's Jiraxis already, so you know, we've seen Jiraxis make a really big resurgence with classes like Shaman being in the mix. These players want to grind out Shaman decks and then use Jiraxis to leverage the win once all the removal's been used. And a good Earthen Ring Farseer here too. He wants to start chipping away at that armor. Gives him a play. Mountain Giant's still coming down on turn 4. He's even got Faceless Manipulator for it afterwards if it doesn't die. So
yeah, exactly.
As insignificant as this armor change is, you know, this is the difference between being able to just naturally armor up and shield slam a Mountain Giant versus not being able to do that.
There's a question I wanted to ask from the very beginning, as the first few turns of this game plays out very academically. I wanted to ask about the merits of coin live tapping against Control Warrior as the Handlock player. And some people debate whether or not they do it or they don't do it. Some people even chalk up the stylistic choice and preference. Do you feel like there's anything that indicates right or wrong when it comes to coin live tapping?
It's largely, I think the stylistic approach is a pretty good way to put it, because it's hard to understand exactly what the long-term implications of using live tap off of a coin are. One of the spots I think I wouldn't do it is if I already had a 3-drop. So if I have Earthen Ring Farseer in my opening hand, it makes a lot of sense to just hang on to the coin, live tap once, Earthen Ring Farseer, and kind of go from there. But if you're missing Mountain Giant or Twilight Drake, you know, obviously that's a card you want to dig to. So giving yourself the 1 extra draw makes a lot of sense. So sacrificing the coin for that merit, I think it's pretty good. But if you don't have Earthen Ring Farseer, you don't have Ancient Watcher, and you don't have a Mountain Giant, that's just kind of the nightmare scenario. I think you need to save coin in that instance to try to accelerate into, like, you know, sometimes turn 4 Sludge Belcher or Lotheb, and hope that can buy you enough time to start scaling. And there's the Ragnaros. right off the bat too. This is something I see a lot out of the European scene. They like to be really greedy with handlock decks, and that card is exceptionally good in the mirror and also versus warrior control decks because they're so focused on killing all your giants that Ragnaros will just often rain terror.
That's right. You know, Ragnaros is another giant, another 8/8 body. Not to mention against Freeze Mage, Ragnaros is one of the best ways to fight against it, where handlock is often just twiddling its thumbs because it can't do anything to Freeze Mage, so it's another great presence on the board.
Hellfire picked up, but not a very good spell here. This is the turn I think that handlock struggles a lot with is turn 6. Especially if your opponent's played a Spectral Knight instead of a minion you can typically Siphon Life. He doesn't have a Siphon Life available to him, but you know, he's still got some damage to push through. He's actually just going to Faceless this Spectral Knight. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Big Game Hunter coming into HitGirl's hand. That's an important draw right now. He's got a lot of tools to deal with any big minions his opponent can play. I would be astonished if this Spectral Knight goes unchecked this turn.
There's no way.
How do you do it, though? He wants to Death Spite and use the Cruel Taskmaster. I'm a little surprised by this, too.
Yeah, you know, I guess because also the second charge of Death Spite can threaten whatever comes out. Usually things like Sludge Belcher, even Loatheb. So I think the second charge of Death Spite is pretty important to get out, but at the same time, you do waste a little bit of efficiency with your cards.
Yep. I like armoring up here too. You want to keep your armor built for that shield slam, but you don't want to play Acolyte at the same time, but you also want to, sometimes you want to activate Grommash off of this Death Spite and kind of go from there. He's put together a lot of damage. I'm not sure how much of an impact it makes, though. He's actually just going to coin Ragnaros, and I like it. I think either of these targets that you hit, you're totally fine with. In HitGirl, you can see he wants to hit his face, and it does. And now, Big Game Hunter, this is the play he needed. He also picks up a Sylvanas, but no way to execute it. Like Artosis, we've seen him do it so many times.
Oh, boy.
Instead, he's just going to use Acolyte of Pain. Pick up an extra card from the Death Spite. Ancient Watcher Bite in the dust. A huge swing turn here from HitGirl. That life is also inconsequential. So this is the kind of turn that he needed to pull this game back majorly in his favor. And Numberguy really on the ropes here. He doesn't have a minion out to Shadow Flame with, which is why it's important to take out that Ancient Watcher that turn. Gosh, where do you go from here?
Yeah, it's a great question. The fact that Handlock doesn't have ways to deal a lot of burst damage, now that Leroy has been nerfed and you took out the power overwhelming faceless combination, has given you exactly what you said. The life doesn't really matter here as the Warlock player, or the Warrior player. So as long as you can continue to press in a little bit and have Grommash to threaten the lethal, as well as Ragnaros for your own potential finish, this could be bad news for Numberguy.
Gosh, he's got a lot of options next turn still, too. It's pretty rare that you see this many powerful plays in someone's hand, but Warrior is one of the decks that can do it, man. God, he even gets Alexstrasza. Wow. I mean, I think you play the Fiery War Axe here. This is a game I think you can very easily afford to take slow. I'd be astonished, again, if something wasn't played here. I mean, Sylvanas makes the most sense to me. This is going to make sure your opponent can't play like something huge into this into the Sylvanas and kind of go from there. The question that I think he's having is whether or not he actually attacks his opponent. He's just going to go for it because he's got plenty of answers to a Molten Giant. Even if his opponent manages to taunt him, I think he's going to be able to push through. Owl it's good, but I don't know how good it is here to pick up. So, you know, a couple of tough choices. Again, still, it's like this Sylvanas is like such a huge problem. If he could see HitGirl's hand, I think this would just be like a, okay, let's go to the next game sort of thing. But all of his options feel poor.
Yeah, normally in this scenario, if you're trying to stave off lethal and you have to clear the board, something desperate, such as like a Loatheb Shadow Flame play, can be your way to seal back. But Warrior in this stage is dropping such heavy minions that they don't need spells in order to threaten to kill you, right? Grommash plus Cruel Taskmaster would be the kill for this point. So anything that you do feels like it's just a dead end. Siphon Soul doesn't really give you the flexibility to do much other than just play the Iron Beak Owl. He's going to use Soulfire and hopefully doesn't discard his Jiraxis, and he barely avoids it as Shadow Flame does leave the hand.
I think it's the first time I've ever seen that happen.
That's right.
Drax
It is
staying in the hand after
possible.
Soulfire. I think this is a world first that we're witnessing right now. Okay, so I guess, I mean, wow, he's going to armor up? No way! Oh my gosh, he chooses to armor up instead of... Why doesn't he play Alex Stradley here? I don't understand.
Oh, I get it. Because you have Shield Slam as an enabler for Gromosh next turn.
Oh, so he's just
wants
pushing
to-
straight for lethal at this point.
That's right. This is his
Right.
way to go for it. And now Numberguy has to deal with many legendaries back to back, and Mortal Coil is not going to do that.
Yeah,
Boy.
I think he's got a really good turn though. I mean, Molten Giant Loatheb Sun Fury Protector is nothing to scoff at right now. And here's another. Like, obviously, life tap here is a totally reasonable thing, but you know, in the back of your mind, are you worried about Ragnaros just hitting your face through all of this? I mean, that's a definite possibility.
I suppose so. There was one instance in the OGN Masters several months ago where Artosis was playing Savitz, where Artosis played Twisting Nether into double Molten Giant Sun Fury Protector with 10 mana. And then Savitz played Ragnaros and shot the face and killed him. So that might be what happens here.
The old Twisting Nether, and HitGirl's a little bit short on options. You know, these are all legendary plays that are pretty strong, but he's got to worry about his own lethal now. He's facing down 14 points of damage on the board, plus whatever his opponent's got in hand. We know he's got Jiraxis, so he's got 17 points of damage, but one of these minions is going to die or he's going to die, so he's going to be a few points short on that end.
You think
How
Shield
do you
Slamming
choose to shore this
the
up?
Sun Fury Protect? Yeah, Shield Slam the 2-3 might be your best option.
I don't think it's a bad play. Is that his best play, though? I'm guessing you're going to also play Spellbreaker if you're going to do that.
You can't do both, though, because Shield Slam costs...
Oh
waste
my
of
gosh, it's right. It's 6 mana. Oh, he had to armor up first, too. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Wow, he's just trying to increase his chances. It's up to 33%. He's going to roll the dice. Oh my goodness. He takes out the Molten Giant. He's going to save himself a ton of damage, and then Ragnaros is still a looming threat here.
That's right. No second Siphon Soul.
Where do you go from here?
That was the second best target, though, for sure. Otherwise,
Oh,
you're going
yeah,
to be able to deal
definitely.
with it. Play Jiraxis, and yeah, from there, it'd be really difficult to win. Also, something to note that post Jiraxis, Numberguy's hand is looking very bad. He's only got one applicable card, really. Mountain Giant feels very clunky because it's going to take your entire turn, and you already get a similar card just for your hero power alone. And Mortal Coil, of course, is not really doing much against Warrior.
Yeah. Definitely some things to think about. I think you got to slam Jiraxis here, honestly. Jiraxis just, I mean, it just feels like the play. Like, what else are you going to do?
The only other play is Mountain Giant, or even tap Mountain Giant, which, if you want to get one more turn greedily before you play Jiraxis, but that's rolling the dice a little bit too much for my taste.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's almost out of time, though. He's going to need some more spices to cook if he's out of time. He's going to go with Jiraxis, though, and I like it. Eridar, Lord of the Burning Legion. 8 to the dome, and let's see what happens. This match... Oh, he's actually going to take out Ragnaros.
He's got Whirlwind. That's going to do it for game number 3. HitGirl, 2 wins with Warrior, and Numberguy is going to have to use his Rogue to clean the series up.
Wow, good game.
Yeah. Whirlwind. You know, right before the series, I was saying there's so many people playing Show's Warrior that cut the card. I was like, who plays Whirlwind? But apparently this guy does. So.
Yeah, I heard you complaining about it this morning about Whirlwind.
That's right.
You're just addicted to Hearthstone, man. You get down to cast, you're like, you know what? I got 12 minutes. I can squeeze in a game against Control Warrior.
I'm running out of time, dude. I admit it. I'm not legend right now. I'm ranked number 1. I'm 5 games away from being a hit legend. It's just because I've been pretty busy ever since this tournament season madness has begun.
Yep.
But I'm trying to squeeze in games whenever I can. And one of them is I've been hitting a lot of Warriors on ladder who cut Whirlwind and put in Hogger. But not this guy. HitGirl knows what's up. He knows what a good Warrior does.
Yeah, I agree with it, man. I think Whirlwind. Like, I've been playing a lot with Unstable Ghoul, and a lot of spots Whirlwind would be really good. I'm kind of happy to see it back. I think the utility He's a little bit better than the alternative. So really happy to see it back. But now HitGirl, he's taking a pretty big advantage. When Warrior picks off 2 games, that's bad news for you.
Yeah, I think so. If that handlock comes down, it's very difficult for Miracle Rogue to pick itself up after, especially after losing the burst of Leroy, because that was your one way to sneak in wins if handlock tapped too low. I don't know how Numberguy can pull it out. Of course, it could be something completely different as well. What if this is the aggro rogue, turn 6 rogue, the backspace rogue, as many call it by different names? That might be a complete out of loop, but then as much as it might be decent against handlock, how is it going to get past the warrior class? So Numberguy doesn't seem like, however you cut this rock, it's going to be very difficult for him to win the series.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, anytime you got to come back 2-0 to win a series, it's tough. But if there's a deck that can do it, man, it's Rogue. Anytime you have the threat of just Auctioneer, draw infinity cards, deal you infinity damage, laugh at you as I, again, relax. And not so pay to win, though. The deck's pretty cheap to build. A few thousand dust, right? You got a monstrosity of a deck. But again, this could be a lot of different things. You know, we've seen so many different versions of Miracle Rogue. You know, even at WCA, I saw a deck with 2 Assassin's Blades, just to try to get value just out of attacking and rely on cards.
Assassin's Blade.
Yeah, had 2 Assassin's Blade, had 2 Blade Flurries, Blade Fury, as some of you like to hate on it when it's called that, and then of course. The Violet Teachers to really it was like value rogue. It wasn't even really Miracle Rogue. It was just trying to get value out of stuff, and it does a pretty good job at it, frankly. So I don't think 2 Assassin's Blades on too many people's radars, and you know, rightfully so. It's a pretty clunky card, but this could be any number of Miracle Rogue decks. We've even seen like the double Cold Light Oracle Rogue decks, and we've even seen like Mill Rogue decks, like Firebat hit Legendary with a Mill Rogue deck, and he actually thinks it's pretty good. It's got cards like Vanish. That's like the Youthful Brewmaster. The point of the deck is literally to run your opponent out of cards and fatigue them to death. I think that's even a good deck for this kind of lineup, because that deck does so well against control decks.
That's interesting though, because we have a flavor pick already for Numberguy. There's South Sea Deckhand. The South Sea Deckhand Dream. I hope he plays Faceless, because then that would be amazing. Right? The double Cold Blood South Sea Deckhand Faceless combo for 20 damage.
I've definitely done that before. It's hard to pull off, but this hand's actually pretty good against Warrior right off the bat. He's got 2 Auctioneers in his hand. And Auctioneer's a card that against Warrior, it's not made to like play it, conceal it, and hope that it lives sort of thing. It's like it's a more of a grind card. Like you use it just to kind of scale and kind of go from there. That's like the hidden benefit of it, is that obviously you can get gadgets in conceal turns, which are very powerful, but just gadgets in its own right is good enough against Warrior. Like if you string off 4 spells, you've dug deep into your deck, your hand quality is really high, and your opponent still has to deal with Auctioneer. So, you know, conceal being in his hand, obviously giving him a lot of leverage, but 2 Auctioneers, I mean, this is going to be a really tough win for Warrior, I think, unless he can put together some damage. Of course, that's like another hidden benefit of Warriors now, is that since they have 2 extra copies of weapons in there, they just have a lot of damage to actually just push back at you. You know, with something like Grommash, a couple of hits, and then he's even got Spectral Knight, so Spectral Knight's a nightmare to deal with, of course, for Rogue. A lot of damage coming across the board. He's even got Azure Drake in here. And this kind of indicates to me that this is a more traditional Rogue deck. I mean, we've even seen South Sea Deckhand, but I think South Sea Deckhand is in there mostly as like a trap checker sort of card. Like against Hunter, it does a really good job at disrupting things like Freezing Trap and disrupting explosive traps to make sure that you don't just die to those kind of traps that are coming out.
I like South Sea Deckhand also as just a combo enabler for what you're trying to do early on in the game. It gives you early game stability at the sacrifice of 1 Sinister Strike if you're running. I think it's okay.
Yep.
All right, so he's got a way to deal with the Spectre Knight. There's just some battle cries that you can utilize, but 2 Spectre Knights, that's where it starts getting dicey. Oh boy.
This is the kind of damage I was talking about too. Warrior it has a lot of actual damage output than it used to have. And it seems to be the tradition for every deck. Every deck's it's got a lot of consistent damage from its cards. So this is a pretty easy turn to cast Auctioneer and conceal it, but boy, is that Lothep going to hurt. And that is a ton of damage he's facing down now. He's even got Ragnaros in his hand. A slew of options.
He's got weapons to follow it up. He's got Faceless on perhaps another Spectre Knight if his opponent shows that he doesn't have Blade Flurry the next couple of turns.
Yep.
I thought you said the Warrior wasn't exactly the best equipped, but when you have everything lined up in dream scenario, how can you really complain? This is the exact tools that you need as the Warrior to take out anything that Miracle can do.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Spectral Knight, you know, this is a card that we kind of questioned early on. It's something that I have not seen very much in Warrior decks, but it is going to get a lot of work done versus Miracle Rogue. This is 9 points of damage. That's almost half of his health just next turn. So this Auctioneer has got to get something done. He's just going to play Azure Drake. There's a Violet Teacher, so this is a very value-oriented Rogue deck. I wouldn't be surprised to see this Auctioneer bite the dust, but, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to just see it get silenced either. Counting up his damage, making sure he's not wasting anything.
Oof. Yeah, he's got 9 on board. He's got 4 from the weapon. That's 13. Cruel Taskmaster boosts it up to 16.
Yeah, he's going to go for the Execute.
Yeah, I think you want to just clear the board. High priority.
Yep. This is definitely a tough position to deal with. He's got 8 mana. But he's only got 12 life, and look at how much damage he's facing down. And we even can see that HitGirl's got Ragnaros to follow that up.
Yep.
I don't know what Numberguy needed to draw to get out of it, but I'm guessing a second SI7 agent was not it.
Yeah, he needed Vanish. No, because then Lothep just comes back down. Oh, boy.
Yeah. Vanish is not going to be in this version of Rook, I can tell you that. You're definitely going to see it paired with a lot of with a lot of Cold Light Oracles, Shadow Step, that sort of thing. The goal, of course, is to put as many cards in your opponent's hand as possible.
You needed Betrayal. That's what he needed.
That Betrayal positioning was terrible, by the way. Huge mistake.
Yeah.
Numberguy, you definitely want that Spectral Knight in the middle to play around that.
Or you even can make an argument for Cruel Taskmaster in the middle, so that way you take the least damage.
Yeah,
he's going to try to draw. That's the best way he can do anything, but we know that there's always an ability for HitGirl to just press in for the win. He's staring at more than 12 damage right now. He's dead on board. Oh boy.
Yeah, he's got to get this done. Preparation. So his plan is to play 2 SI7 agents here.
Yeah, I think that's his best course of action. There's just no way else you can survive. And
You have to find a way to threaten the Spectral Knight.
How much damage has the Spectral Knight's been doing, by the way?
Well, this is about to deal. It's 12 point of damage, I believe. Oh, he's just going to go for the Ragnaros, too. I like it.
It's fine. Rogue has to deal with it, and you have a chance to be able to just kill him straight up.
Here we go. 50-50. And even if he misses, it's still... Oh, my gosh, he misses with it, too, but it's still drastically in his favor.
Ugh.
So much damage his opponent's going to deal with. That Spectral Knight almost certainly going to go in check. You see even HitGirl noticing his error right away. He played the Ragnaros before the Deathbite hit.
No,
So,
he played around backstab. That's right. I mean, that's a Mally Goes backstab turn.
Oh, yeah, you're right. How did I miss that? Brilliant.
Although, I mean, you sap Ragnaros,
No,
he just comes right back out.
I don't think you have another option, honestly. I think when your opponent showed the Ragnaros here too, that this is a really good Violet Teacher turn. So like Violet Teacher, sap, and then just Fan Cleave.
I think so. That might be your best course of action.
You know, HitGirl's actually got to start thinking about lethal after this too.
That's true. He is on 19 health. It's not exactly the safest amount. But when you see Violet Teachers, are you really worried about dying that much if you just take care of what's on the board?
Well, Violet Teacher, in my opinion, is really indicative of stuff like Cold Blood, because you want to Cold Blood those tokens, and you know sometimes she'll use that as a 5-point removal spell, or just Cold Blooding the tokens in general. It's just that's not you don't want to deal with the 1 health guy. You want to deal with the Violet Teacher.
Gosh, if this was just a Deathbite instead of a Fiery War Axe, or if he was playing Captain Greenskin.
Captain Greenskin just slams down Greenskin and gets him.
That would be a surprise. I mean, D2 is playing later today.
Oh my gosh, another Ragnaros hit. This is so important. Takes out the Van Cleef. 3 + 4 + 4. Well, here comes Auctioneer. So get ready. This is going to spin out of control really quickly.
He's got 12 points, and he's got preparation. There's a lot of targets. It's going to be hard unless you have Whirlwind.
There's an Eviscerate. Is that... Oh, it's not lethal yet. Really close. Wait, is it lethal? 11 plus 5? Oh my gosh, he's 1 damage off lethal, but he's going to pick up another card too. So here's preparation.
He just needs like a Shiv? Is that what it is?
Yeah, a Shiv would do it, so... I mean, I'd be... Wait a minute, though. If he picks up Shiv... No, he's still missing a point of damage because I was counting 5 with the Blood Mage.
Oh, that's right.
You know, 11, poison would do it.
12, 16, 17.
He's got 16 points of damage right now without the Blood Mage. With the Blood Mage, he's got 17 points of damage. I think you try to draw like a poison or something.
I think so. I think you have to reach for as deep as you can. You have Auctioneer.
Picks up Fan of Knives. Running out of time.
He already used the second prep, right?
Yeah, both prep. Oh, he picks up the poison! And that's gonna do it.
Damage. Wow.
We're going to game 5. Look at how much damage. I cannot believe this rogue game turned around. I thought Warrior had this in the bag. But just one big string of draws from Auctioneer. On the last second of the turn available, picks up the last card that he can draw. It happens to be Deadly Poison. And that's exactly 18. Wowee. And this is still sort of the threat of this Miracle Road deck. You know, it has a lot of good scaling with cards like Violet Teacher. That obviously can apply a lot of pressure to the board when your opponent, you know, they've kind of used all their spells, and then these 1/1s start racking up. It's a really good way to play around Ragnaros. And then, gosh, just the 3/5 body was enough to sustain any attacks from his opponent, so it was going to live almost no matter what in that scenario. I still like HitGirl pushing for lethal there. I think that was a smart decision. But just Numberguy, he finding the right combinations of cards in the end. Pretty much all of his mana and exact lethal.
And that's where Ragnaros is just a cool mistress, not able to get the final finish on the rogue player. Oh man, that just feels so bad for HitGirl, because that was the series win right there. Now all of a sudden we go to the Warlock deck, where if he loses here, he was in a position to win 3-1, but all of a sudden the rogue deck, like you said, is able to 2-0 because of those things like the Gadgets and Auctioneer.
Yep. Definitely making a big difference. We're going to take a look at the brackets real quick before we get into the next game. Never mind. We're going to go back to our versus screen here. So yeah, again, as you were saying, Warlock versus Rogue. I still think this is going to be Handlock. I'd be surprised if this is Rogue. I'm sorry, if this is Zoo. In this style of format, I think Handlock is just too powerful when you can take away your opponent's Hunter. It just makes so much sense to be playing Handlock.
I think so too. Granted, if your strategy is just like you said to ban Hunter, and if everyone's expecting Zoo, then your deck becomes a lot weaker, because then they could at the same time too Handlock, because then you can mulligan properly. But Handlock also can bounce back much stronger. One BGH can't really hold down Zoo or hold down Handlock versus Zoo. If they keep the right cards, there's almost sometimes nothing you can do because they sweep you every single time. So I like bringing Handlock to a tournament. Its consistency is amazing because of the life taps early on, and not to mention that you also can throw in cool stuff like Ragnaros and Handlock and still surprise people while not gimping your other parts of the game. So I think so. It's good.
So Ragnaros not being so good for Number. You know, if that was Tides' Ragnaros or Amaz's Ragnaros, I think it would have hit face there.
Sure.
But I don't think Numberguy has he hasn't quite paid the Ragnaros Mafia the rights.
Or you
to
mean
just
her
be able
HitGirl, right? Because HitGirl is the one trying to go for the Ragnaros.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, HitGirl. HitGirl hasn't exactly paid the Ragnaros Mafia to be able to, you know, pick off whatever target he needs it to.
Yeah, they're right around the barber shop as well, so maybe that's why HitGirl never found him.
Those massive locks, though.
It is. They're luscious.
I wish I could grow that kind of hair. All my hair has been transferred from the top of my head to my beard.
Yeah, I suppose if you just rotate your head upside down, you're just good to go.
What's the chin talk? Like where you turn upside down and you cover your nose and your eyes?
Yeah, just do that.
Just put a couple of googly eyes right in my beard.
Oh man, you totally should do a cast like that, please. Just flip your camera upside down. You don't have to actually be inverted at all.
That's kind of like cheating, though. I'm not a cheater. I'm gonna flip upside down and do it, literally right now.
Handstands the whole way. Well, hey, you told me you've been working out, so get your daily fix in.
but it's not very
By the
good.
way, Rogue's on the coin, which is good. That extra card is extremely valuable in matches where you're spending your removal very early on. In particular against Handlock, because you're often spending like Backstab and Eviscerate just to clear one threat.
Yeah.
And you need to replenish as fast as you can. That's why Gadget Stand's also important and crucial. Numberguy wants to go fishing completely. Also, he's not entirely sure if this is Handlock or Zoo, so that's also a mystery. Do you keep something like Prep Fam Knives, so that way you have an ability to answer a board with lots of weak minions?
Well, if you're gonna mulligan into Auctioneer, Backstab, Poison, Blood Mage, I don't think you do, but
Right.
Otherwise, you might want to consider it.
Well, that sounds good. Let's just do that.
Yeah, let's just pick up Auctioneer. I agree with this mulligan though. I would be, even against Zoo in that situation, I would be mulliganing everything because I think finding SI7 Agent and Backstab is more important. So like if he had both of those cards in his hand, it wouldn't surprise me to see him keep them. But if he just has one or the other, I think you just want to fish.
Don't mind if I do. HitGirl without a turn 4 play, but he does have ways to drop minions and be slightly defensive. But the Handlock really needs that turn 4 drop. If you miss it, you give your opponent able to respond. They're not taking damage on potential turn 5 Auctioneer play, and then you might be in big trouble.
Yep. HitGirl doesn't like his hand. I actually don't think it's that bad. You know, he had the option of playing Ancient Watcher on turn 2, but as you were saying, he's lacking that 4 drop, and that's really where your Handlock's big power spike comes in. So he wants to maximize his chance to get it. So, you know, on the off chance he draws an Owl, or even having the ability to taunt up that Ancient Watcher, it's not what you want to be doing early. You need to be finding Twilight Drake. You need to be finding Mountain Giant. He should be live tapping here. There's almost no circumstance where he should be dropping Ancient Watcher without an Owl in his hand already. If he doesn't have a 4 drop available. Bloodmage's coming out really early though. I think I like this actually, because this is one of those critical turns where like your opponent doesn't want to leave Bloodmage on the board, because it, you know, that's obvious, that turns a giant into dying from a backstab and an eviscerate. And at the same time though, if he's gonna Mortal Coil it, it means he's only got 3 mana left, so he can't play either one of those spells anyway. So this is a really good timing for the Bloodmage.
Yeah, I think so. You want to get the Blood Mage out before the threat goes, so you can use your mana more efficiently in this department. And how happy are you to see no turn 4 play from your opponent?
Oh, extremely happy. I mean, this is sort of like the dream. He's like, oh, I can just kill this Ancient Watcher so he can't taunt it, or silence it, or any sort of shenanigans like that, and just kind of keep going from there. And HitGirl continues to miss 2 copies of Hellfire. You know, I'm a little bit surprised he's got 2 copies of Hellfire if he's going to be banning Hunter.
I think it's a call against the prominence of Shaman, don't you think? Shaman.
It definitely could be. It's definitely good against Shaman, and this is just going to be one of those big turns where pretty much everything goes right.
Wow.
For the rogue player. Backstab, coin, conceal, the works. Cold Blood picked up, Sap picked up. That's a big card in this matchup, especially when your opponent's whiffed, because it means that nothing's going to get through to the board right now.
Yep. And this is the way Auctioneer can bring you back in the game, especially from passivity early game from the Handlock. Handlock doesn't have anything like Loatheb to shut it down. Used his Ancient Watcher, so Shadow Flame is not even that strong of a counterplay whatsoever.
Yep.
So this is a very bad position for HitGirl.
Oh, man. Gosh, I don't know where you go from here. This is really tough. You know, if he had Blood Mage in his hand, I think this would be acceptable. Like Blood Mage Hellfire would be really good. I don't even think he runs Blood Mage though. I haven't seen that in forever.
Right.
He's gonna have to Sun Fury his own Sun Fury Protector to try to stave off some of this damage, but there's already a 3-point dagger available. Backstab's gonna come out. Ban Cleave's in the hand. You're gonna see so many cards drawn this turn. I think this is exactly what Numberguy needed to win this game, and it's pretty much like the best. This had to be like the dream response from his opponent. If you're a Numberguy's spot, your opponent just did nothing this turn, and you have everything available. This is a matter of like having too many options. It's just like, what do you even do? You can do for the man who has everything.
Now, what is there left to get?
Wow, another preparation picked up. So many cards are going to get drawn this turn. I don't know if he's running 2 copies of Conceal or not. It makes a lot of sense right now since there's so many control decks. I mean, I think this could potentially be lethal this turn too. 8, 12, 16. Yeah, I like eviscerating here. See what you can pick up. I mean, you're only 4 points of damage off lethal right now. Just go ahead and eviscerate again. Second sap. I don't think there's any way that Numberguy is going to be winning this game.
Or do you mean HitGirl?
I'm sorry, yeah, HitGirl. I keep mixing these names up. I don't know why I keep doing this.
No worries.
Down 2 life though, and the oh no wait, he just got lethal. What the heck? Oh, he can just use the blood mage to attack the. It was a 2-1. Wow, I'd much rather miss that as a caster than as a player, though. I can tell you that. But Numberguy's going to pick up this series on the back of Miracle Rogue. Very well played, and of course, a couple of poor draws at the end there for HitGirl. But that's part of Hearthstone, is that there is a certain amount of consistency that's happening in these games.
I'm speechless. That was a turn 6 kill, and Numberguy immediately flipping the switch. And of course, to make things rub in a little bit more into the wound, HitGirl picked up his Twilight Drake as his last card off of the tap. So that is very unfortunate, because then if you used all of your resources, your backstabs, your shivs, your whatever, your eviscerates before you're able to do anything, then the Miracle Rogue struggles. But I think Numberguy got the perfect set of draws that he needed in order to end this series, and he is going to advance to round 2 of the winner's bracket of Battle of the Best. Which, guys, if you want to check out more about what's going on, go to battleofthebest.com and click on the tournament section. You'll be taken over, and you can see the 8 players that we have. We have Numberguy, who just took out HitGirl, and of course, coming up on stream, we have Forsen versus Hyped, which is going to be rounding out the top half of the winner's bracket. That should be an exciting time, man. I don't know exactly what to expect from Forsen or Hyped, but one thing for sure is I know a lot of fans want to see how they're doing.